What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In the last video, we got the engine torn out of this Evo 10 that we have in the shop right now. Today, we need to get this thing all stripped down to bare bones and get it off to the machine shop. So that way we can get that process started. And the sooner we get that going, the sooner we can get this thing built and back driving on the road. So I do have a friend coming over. I'm gonna try to walk her through tearing this thing apart. She wants to learn and I'm more than willing to teach. So we'll see how it goes. First thing we have to do is get the transmission disconnected from the engine so we can get the engine in an engine stand. Now I did already release the throwout bearing in the last video when this was still in the car. So we just gotta pull the bell housing bolts off all the way around and then we should be able to slide that off. I did also pick up some bolts at Lowe's so we can get some bolts through our engine into the engine stand because the ones that are in the car, these little guys, aren't quite long enough to fit through the stand. So we got some replacements here and those should do the trick. Okay, so we have the engine out, we have it in the stand. So what we gotta do now is just start pulling things off. I already have the exhaust manifold off this side. I took that off when it was in the car, but we should be able to pull this intake manifold off and leave pretty much everything on it. The less I have to disconnect, the easier it is and quicker it is to put it all back together. So I'm hoping we can probably just, we'll take the two bolts out that hold these hard lines to the block. And then these two little coolant lines that come off our little water pump, we'll take those off with the two clamps and then just the bolts that actually hold the manifold to the block, and this thing should come free. That's what I'm gonna try, and if that works, it's gonna save a lot of time and effort. And then we can move on to the brackets, our pulleys, and whatever else we gotta take off before we start getting into the block itself. Okay, so now we have this thing stripped down to pretty much a bare long block. So we're gonna rip the valve cover off, then we can do the timing cover, take off our timing chain, all our timing components, and then we'll get to the head and finally the short block. But yeah, valve cover just held on by a bunch of these little bolts up here. This can come off and it'll expose our cams and all that fun stuff. And then we'll take our timing cover off, so we can pull our chain and tensioner and all that off. These are your cam gears, obviously, connect to your cams. All these plastic things are just guides to guide the chain where to go, and they kind of help tension the chain. This is your actual timing chain tensioner, which just pushes against this to hold it snug, because if it's loose, you're gonna start slipping timing. This is that oil squirter I was talking about on the older Model 4Bs. On the newer ones, they did away with this, so we can either delete this or we can run it, probably run it. It's no big deal in having it. Down here, this lower chain is for your oil pump. So same idea with the guides, but this one has a built-in tensioner. You can see back here it's like a spring. So all that spring does is hold it nice and tight. This doesn't have to have like a crazy amount of tension as this, just enough so that it grabs the oil pump gear and is able to spin it. So when we pull the pan off, you'll see the oil pump better. All that does is take the oil out of the pan and feed it through the engine. But that's it, like there's not a whole lot in here. Once we take our tensioner off, all this is gonna come free and there's gonna be nothing there. So that's pretty much it. Made some solid progress tonight, tearing this thing apart, teaching her how everything works, and yeah, we are down to just the short block. So tomorrow we're gonna pull off the oil pump, we'll pull off the cradle, and then we can pull crank, rods, pistons, all the above, and turn this into a completely bare case, which is what the machine shop needs. Now it is only 6 o'clock, but she had to go home and take care of the pup, so we're gonna wait until tomorrow to tear the rest of this thing apart. I want to kind of show and teach her how all this stuff works. That way when I need help, I have someone that I can call and rely on to give me a hand. I'll pick the camera up tomorrow when we start tearing this thing apart. Good morning, boys. We're back out here in the garage, and we can finally get the rest of the short block torn apart. We need to get the oil pump off, and that will then free up the cradle so we can pull this off, pull our crank, rods, pistons, and everything in the block. So our oil pump is just held on by 3 12 mils here, and then this will come off, and then I think our cradle, if I remember correctly, has 6 bolts. You can kind of see them down in here. We'll get all those removed. Cradle will come up, and then we'll be able to get our crank, rods, and pistons out of there. Our pistons, or we'll just disconnect our rod caps from the back of the crank to pull the crank out, and then we can hit our rods and pistons out through the top of the short block, because our wrist pins we're not able to pull out like we can on a Subaru short block. Engine is now completely disassembled. We have everything laid out and just prepping the block and the head to go to the machine shop. So all we got to do is just all these little bolts that I stick back in here. We're just going to take them out. Because I'm still learning this platform, I'll just take pictures of everything just so I know where all the bolts go when we go to slap it back together. When you work on these cars enough, one, you start to learn where, you know, the bolts go, but two, pretty much all the bolts are 10 mils, 12 mils, or 14 mils. So once you start having a bunch of them, you kind of just figure out what goes where. But yeah, I like to clean everything up before it goes to the machine shop, makes them happy, and happy machine shop normally means good quality stuff. So yeah, we're just tearing these all the way down to fresh cases, and then bring it over there. So with the head, all I do is I put the cams back in with the cam caps. That way the buckets and everything stay in one place. We don't have to resize those. We'll just check valve lash, and if it's good, which I'm sure it is, we'll just run with it. With this car, we're going to be keeping a stock head because the owner wants to keep the same turbo setup. So he has the 6466, but he wants to limit the power that it pushes. He doesn't want to push as much and risk as much. So we're going to keep a stock head, which will, you know, naturally eliminate how much power he can make. And then if he wants more power in the future, we can pull the head off and, you know, add some more, but he'll still be able to make solid boost on a stock head. We're running stock heads on my Evo, so I guess that'll be the test subject for how much these are going to be able to make. But I'm sure with this, we're going to obviously build the lower end. We should still be able to make some solid power and push some solid boosts on a stock head. Well, after going through the clips, it doesn't look like I filmed an outro to this video, but it's okay. I'm lucky enough to be able to film for a few seconds here. I did make it safe, we're alive, and I'm enjoying it out here, really making the best of it, and, you know, enjoying the heat, that's for sure. But, yeah, I think in the next video, we're going to be building up a new engine and getting it slapped in the car, getting that 6466 slapped on, and making some jam. This was obviously filmed quite a few months ago now, and I think the customer is actually enjoying it as we speak, so that's always the best to hear. Obviously no twin turbo hatch content for the next few months, but it is what it is. Luckily I do have this and I'm able to post it, so I hope you guys are enjoying it. It's really all I got, so I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, peace out, see y'all later.